Welcome to my tutorials. Today, basically what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna show you how to do a color grade in Davinci Resolve. Davinci Resolve has a free version where you could do 95% of what I'm gonna do in here. The only thing you can't do is use Fusion. Basically, Fusion is just After Effects that Adobe has. So we're just gonna get into this. I'm gonna show you I'll do a more in-depth just for people who don't really understand. Because I know a lot of people are using Premiere Pro, but I went from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve because it was just a lot easier because DaVinci Resolve works in nodes. And basically nodes are layers in Photoshop. So it's basically non-destructive editing. So basically what we're going to do here is I already found my hero shot. This is basically what this is. So my hero, normally I'll just scroll through my footage and just see what image or pause it on what particular part of the footage that I like that will give me my hero shot. So basically this is going to be my hero shot. My fault for saying basically a lot. We're going to stop doing that. So right now I'm going to show you how to set up a node tree, and what my node tree is, we're going to just go through it. My first node or my first layer would be noise reduction. So I just name that NR. And then we can create another node. If you're on a Mac, I use Mac. On PC, I'm not too familiar, but it's not too much different from Mac. I guess it's just the keyboard shortcuts are different for me than it would be on a PC. But if you're using a Mac, all you got to do is go Control, click, and then add a node and be serial node. But for time's sake, for me, I'm just gonna use Option S. My next node will be primaries, and I'm just going to name it prime. My next node will be film emulation. Basically, it's just a LUT that I'm going to put on here. My next one will be exposure. My next node will be skin. Then I will create a layer node, and I'm going to make it a parallel node. Excuse me. And we're going to name this hue versus hue. Hue versus hue. Then my next node is going to be look adjustment or global adjustment. Not sure which one I would actually use right now. I'm going to do sharpening. Sharpen. This is going to be an easy way to sharpen, but there's other methods of doing sharpening. So I'm only going to show you just pretty much the basic way. This is going to be my vignette. And then grain, film grain is going to be the last node that we use. So now, just move this over a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put on my film emulation LUT. I don't normally do this, but I'm doing it now just because it makes my process a little faster. If I'm trying to do something, like if I have a bunch of nodes, I won't use it. But I'm just going to show you a quick way of how you kind of get that film look. So I'm going to click on LUTs. I'm going to go to film looks, and I'm going to go to the Kodak 2383 D65. I'm just going to double click it, and it's going to put it on here. So without it, with it. Oh, shoot. Next, I'm going to go to my primaries. And then I'm going to go down to my lift. Well, actually, I'm going to start with contrast. I'm going to add a little contrast to it, which is to give it a little pop. Add a little contrast. I'm going to do about somewhere around 1152. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to my gamma. And this is basically raising like the midtones. So I'm going to lift it up just a little bit to add a little light to it. And then I'm going to, Oh, did I bring it down some? Hold on, let me go back. Put it around about 3-ish. And then I'm gonna bring down my gain a little bit. And then I'm gonna do a little bit more gamma. And then bring down my gain. And then a little bit more gamma in there. Add just a little bit more. All right, we're looking pretty good right now. My image or my footage is pretty much even, as you can tell from the top when you got your RGBs, your red, green, and blue. I can level these out on the bottom as well. Basically what I would end up doing is I'll go through my lift, gamma, and gain and see which one I'll take out red, or I'll take out green, or I'll take out blue to even the bottom down here. So what we're going to do is take out from my lift and see, okay, that's adding right about there. So pretty much everything here is even on the bottom. And then I will go to my temp and I'll use my temp to even out the red, green, and the blues over here on my parade. So here we go. So right there, I'm about even, and then I'll go to my tint to take out this green, how this green is peaking at the top. I'll go and add a little magenta so they all line up together. I still have this a little bit of a blue tone to it, and I'll just add a little bit more warmth to it. Around 190. Let's go about 190. Then what I'll do, since they're pretty much all lined up now from top and bottom, I'm gonna go ahead and then just drop some saturation on it. I'm gonna go about 90% on that. Then I'm gonna go into my exposure. Now I'll go over to my shadow, midtones, and highlights, and I'll drop my shadows down just because I like to have a lot of contrast and my blacks to be really black. And I'll bring that down. I can go too far though. Bring it down till about here. I don't normally go past 0. Anything above 0 is like the safe when you can push it as far as you want, but if you're putting it out for like broadcast or something on TV, you really want to be in the safe zone. So I normally keep it a little bit above 0. Then I'll go to my skin and I'll take my qualifier here, and then I'll just, hold on. We got that. Let's put these here. So my qualifier, I'll click here to select. Nope. What is going on here? Okay, so I got my qualifier, and I'll just drag across. And then I'll come up here and hit this little magic wand, and it will show me what I selected. So what I'll end up doing after that is to try to get since his skin is almost, it has the same color in the wood back here, and then there's this off to the side to your right, there is there's a lamp which is also giving off this tungsten glow, so it's giving this orange to his shirt. So you're going to end up grabbing whatever his skin, if the tungsten bulb is almost like his skin tone, it's going to pick it up because it's going to be in the orange. So what I'll end up doing is going to through my lows, and I'll try to see where it's selecting just his skin. Then I'll get my highs, and then I'll drag my highs down and try to get just as much as the skin as I can get. Then I'll do some clean blacks and then clean whites to try to clean up a lot of the noise in the background back here. And I'll bump up my blur just to give it a smooth transition to gradients from, highlights to, darker skin tones, or just it's fading or giving a gradient of color. So again, this is going to be quick. I can probably get this key a little a little better than what it is, but I'm trying to go through this fast enough so it's not a super long video. I'll click that off, and then I'll go down here to my vector scope, and this is what you call your skin line. So basically you will come in down here and show skin tone indicator, and that'll bring up, and this is an easier way to know where your skin tones are supposed to be. There's other ways you can get skin tone. You can do it through hue versus hue and hue versus saturation, but this is a quick way. So I'll give you this way easier so you can kind of get familiar with it. And as you see, when I move my offset, you will see this line move. And then you'll also see his skin tone change. So when you move it, you can tell, you know, if I move it too far, his skin will turn green. If I move it too far over here, it'll desaturate. But you want it to be like right on that line. So right about here. So now that I have my skin tone done, I'll go back into my parade. Oh, hold on. Let's reset this node, because actually I did it on the hue versus hue. We're gonna go back to the skin. That's why it wasn't working. Let me go ahead and select the skin again. Make sure. Okay, same thing. Just go ahead and just bump this up. Bring that over. The little blur. Let me go back and get some of these. Bring this back some. Boom, and then go ahead and there we go. Now I'll probably add in just a little bit more to grab his lips. There you go. So now let me go ahead and put that back. So now that we have that, his key set. Now if I go to hue versus hue, basically what this will end up doing, so these curtains back here. So if I click, let me say we click cyan or blues, I can change, depends on, so you see his tie right here, his tie is changing colors, just so you see what it does, but we're not really gonna focus too much on his tie. Let me go ahead and go to cyans, and let's see, you see the tie is in the cyans, his tie is actually more in the cyan, but you can see the curtains back here, they change. So now they're more of a greenish color. His tie is more of a greenish color, but I like the kind of like that green color a little bit. So I only bump it a little bit just to change the curtains or the drapes a little green and keep his tie blue. Then I'll go to my look adjustment. Now with your look adjustment, this is, or it could be your look adjustment or your global adjustment. Basically what this is now this is pretty much a balanced image. But what I can do is if I go down here to my offset, you can change the vibe of the vibe of the footage. So I can give it this green look. I normally use green for, I say like horror films or something like that. There also is that orange and teal, or it's blue, and then the orange, it's the blues are in the highlights and the oranges are in the midtones. Or we can make it warmer, or we can pretty much just add a little magenta, and it looks normal this way. But I normally, the way I like it, and I'm just gonna keep it even because I like having this green and this orange, and then we got this gold over here. So this is just the basic image that I will do to just start. And this I will give the clients just to see if they like this color grade or not. If they don't, then I'll end up changing it, which is why I either leave my look adjustment, because with the look adjustment, it doesn't really change much. But this will be, it's easier, instead of creating all these nodes all over again, I can just come in here to my look adjustment and then change the tones to see if they like anything different. So then we'll come back to sharpen, and we'll go right here, and then I'm gonna, just to let you guys know, this is a really easy way to sharpen, but there's other ways to sharpen, and it's a little more difficult. But this is just an easier way, and I'm gonna tell you the perfect money is, excuse me, the perfect number is 47. I wouldn't go any further than 47, and I would leave it like that. Then your vignette, which will I'll show you exactly what that does. We'll go here. The vignette will separate, it'll further separate your subject or actor from the background. So what we end up doing is, now that this is a feather, so I'm feathering out the vignette. So I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way, and I'm going to click this. Then we're going to go into our curves adjustment right here, and then we're going to go ahead and click about right here, and then we're going to drag it down, which it'll darken just the outside. We don't want a lot, just darken a little bit on the outside, just like that. So now that we have our vignette, it further separates our actor from the background. Something else that I will do, I will come back into my exposure, and I will click on custom. Nope, I'll go down to edible splines. I'll click here, and this is just adding a little pop into the footage. It's gonna brighten it up a little bit because it is a little dark. I'll probably do a little bit more, add a little more lift, gamma, gain in there, but this is just gonna pop. It's gonna pop it up just a little bit. So it added a little bit more, maybe not so much, about right there. I don't need to do any in the low end, in the dark. So basically this is your blacks, midtones, and your highlights, or your lift, gamma, gain. So this looks pretty good for this tutorial. Let me see what else I would probably do. Let me go back in here. Let me go back to my gamma, and I'll probably add a little bit of more lift into this on the bottom end. Just to bring it up just a little bit, just so the blacks aren't so crushed. Then I'll go back into, let me go back into my shadows and then just drop it a little bit. Yeah, that looks good to me. And then grain is just basically adding in film grain. And this will be your very last node. So we'll go into OpenFX. I'll come down here and I'll type in grain, and I'll drop film grain down on this node. Close. So I've watched a lot of video and a lot of other colorists, and the preferred, I say, film grain preset that everybody uses is a 35mm 400T, and you can play around with them. You don't necessarily have to use this one, but it's in your OpenFX, so you can play around with it. I normally put my grain size around 340 and then the strength around 320, which it adds a little bit more grain, because once you throw on this noise reduction, it's gonna get rid of a lot of the grain in the beginning, because since it was shot in low light, there was still a little bit of grain and artifacts in it. So that's what the oops, sorry about that, guys. That's what the noise reduction will do. It'll get rid of the grain in the film, and then I'll add the grain again. Let me see. Is there anything else that I would like to do with this? I think I'm pretty much, I'm good with the images. It looks, because I've already color graded this once. It took me a little longer to color grade the first time, but since I already have the idea and the look already, I already knew exactly the steps that I would do. You definitely can go in here and play around a little more with, I add a little bit of more, gammon that, and I'm gonna add a little lift in my primaries just to bring it up just a little bit more. It was a little dark. Let me grab my highlights real quick and then just bring my highlights down just a tad, so it's not so hot right here. And I don't know, I feel like just adding a little bit more saturation, because the film, I like a lot of contrast and a lot of color. This is actually perfectly fine, but I'll add a little bit more contrast just to add a little bit more, about 90, about 96, just to add a little more warmth in the skin tones. And do your, another tip, do your noise reduction at the very end, because if you don't have a powerful machine, this noise reduction is gonna slow your computer down a lot. So I do, this is pretty much the full grade right here. My bad, y'all. So also, you don't, there's a thing, most people like the cinema bars on their footage. I'll just go up to my clip and then let me see, let me find it real quick. Is it clip? Let me see if I can find it. There's a, oh, it's not in here. I'll do it in the other one. Let me go to my edit tab and then come up to output blanking, and I'll do 2.35, which will give you those cinema bars. And then when you get here, come down to your video, and then you can use your position X and Y to either lower it or lower the video or center the video to your liking. And that's about where I would keep it. I'm gonna go back into my color tab, and then I do a lot of heavy noise reduction. So this is what it looks like before the noise reduction. And then I'll show you, we'll go over to our noise reduction. Okay. We're gonna go into our frames. We're gonna do 3. What I normally do is about 8.6. I'm gonna do 8.6. Then I will unchain these, go to my chroma and do 6.8. And you can already tell a difference in what it did. So you can already tell it cleaned up a lot of the noise. And then I added that grain at the end, which it gave it the film grain look. But if I turn this off, you can see now it's a lot of grain on his skin and things like. I just basically just smoothed out a lot of his skin and things like that. Then turn it back on, and now boom, the image is a lot more cleaner. And this is basically the color grade that what I used on this footage. It's pretty simple. It can be way more in depth if you want it to be. It doesn't, you don't technically have to do, I can show you how to do it in just like 3 or 4 nodes, but I like to break things down separately so I can go back and adjust each node separately, so it's just easier for me. But this is pretty much the tutorial. I have other tutorials where I can show you how to remove like skin blemishes and pimples, scars, things like that. And also when it comes to your vignette, I'll show you how to track this. So when he moves, the vignette will follow, it will follow him. So like say if he's, so right now, how it is right now, it's not tracked. So if he was to sit back, he would sit back into the shadow or the vignette over on this side. I also, how I got this lighting here, how I got it to look like this is basically all lighting. If I would have shot this without lighting, it wouldn't have had that cinematic feel to it. But over on the left side, I have a aperture 120D. Since we were in a small place, I didn't need a lot of light, so I brought my aperture 120D with an octobox on it. I think it's a 60 inch or 67 inch octobox. And then I had coming from over on this side, I had a practical light, which is basically a lamp, which had a tungsten bulb in it, which gave it this orange or warm look on the side of his shirt and face. And then I had the daylight 120D, aperture daylight 120D on the side of his face, which gave it It was up probably maybe a foot above where he was, about right here, about a foot above where he was, and then shining down with a and shining in a downward motion, which would gave me this Rembrandt lighting triangle right here. Which Rembrandt is just, the lighting is just really flattering to your eyes. But let me know if you guys have any questions or anything that you would like me to show you, or any behind the scenes, or just tutorials of how to set up your lighting to give you this look, or to give you a more professional look.